Okay, let's see if we can get this in focus, shall we? I focus on the chair. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Yeah. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today this might help. Hey guys, welcome back. As you're probably already aware from the title of this video, we're talking about the Cine A6 Lite today. My hunt for a monitor began when I bought the Blackmagic Pocket 4K itself. The lack of any movable screen rendered this camera kind of, I'd say useless. It's not useless, but you know, it's extremely difficult to use in any situation where you're not on the exact back of the camera within, you know, kind of a little bit of wiggle room to be able to actually see the screen itself. If you're wanting to like film above, below, to the side, or like I'm doing in a YouTube kind of situation, not being able to see yourself with the screen of the camera was really difficult. As demonstrated by the opening of this video, it's very difficult to get yourself in focus unless you have an external monitor with this camera. So I already had this monitor. Now this is the newer 7-inch monitor. It was great for using with the M50. It's got a clip-on, clip-off sun guard, mount an MPF battery on the back. It's got HDMI in and out, VGA in, and a quarter 20 mount on the bottom. So pretty good. Like, I think that was around about 50-60 pounds when I first bought it. However, it has one big problem when using it with this camera, and that is that it does not accept a 4K HDMI input. Now, to my knowledge, there's no way of changing the output of the Pocket 4K over HDMI. I've looked, I've tried, I've Googled it, and I couldn't find a way of doing it, which meant that I had to start looking for a new monitor. And as much as I liked the old monitor because it was cheap, did everything I really needed it to do, it was time to start looking for something that was actually going to be a little bit more professional and have a few extra features compared to what the newer one had. So I'd scoured the interwebs far and wide for this monitor and that monitor. I'd watched loads of rig rundowns of the Blackmagic Pocket 4K, seeing what monitors people were using, mostly kind of in the indie kind of realm, not in like the big built up kind of realm. But one of the main things that I wanted to try and do when getting the monitor was almost emulate like the C200 kind of style. I wanted something quite small, something quite compact. You know, I was almost like impressed and inspired by this video I saw, I can't find it anywhere, but of Jesse Driftwood pulling out his C200 from his, I think it's a Wandered backpack, just unfolding the screen. Now obviously that's quite a big camera with like an 18-35 on the front. The Blackmagic, you know, it's a little bit wider, but I wanted to kind of emulate that ability to fold the monitor down. So I wanted the option to mount the monitor on the side as well as the bottom. So that was kind of like a bit of a niche thing really. So I had a look around to see what I could find, and I came up with a few, but there are a few more points I want to talk about before I get into the few monitors that I looked at. So the monitor that I was going to look for had to be able to be powered by battery. Now I already use NPF style batteries for powering my lights, for powering externally the Blackmagic, and for that other monitor. So I'd already, you know, got quite a few of them lying around. I'd rather have something that works via that, and thankfully practically all monitors around about that size take that kind of battery, or they take an LPE6 battery as well, like this monitor does, and the FeelWorld A7, I think it's called, FeelWorld Lite. It's basically the same monitor, just by a different brand. Another thing I really needed was things like focus peaking, zebras, false color, grid lines. All of that stuff would absolutely make or break the situation, because the Blackmagic is great for having those 3 function buttons on top that you can program to set things like that. However, sometimes you know, might not be within reach of the Blackmagic, and it's just easier just to reach out and grab the screen. Like for instance, right now I'm using this to record a YouTube video, so I can just reach out and I can just press a button on top of the monitor, see myself with false color to check my exposure, turn it off again, rather than having to reach all the way over to the Blackmagic, which is a little bit further back. So then in terms of the things that this monitor has, this has practically everything that I would need at my level, at what I'm currently doing, making YouTube videos. We have that NPF style battery power, we have the LPE6 style battery power, so if I wanted to buy a bunch of the batteries for the monitor and the Blackmagic, because they both take the same, I could do that. In fact, I might actually do that going forward, because the battery is a lot smaller, a lot lighter. So if I'm like traveling with this setup, you know, rather than having the cage and handle and everything, I'll just take the monitor, a small Magic arm, and then maybe a few LPE6 batteries for the Blackmagic, a couple of lenses, we'd be sorted. In terms of the analysis features, we have all of these. So we've got practically everything that I really wanted. Now in terms of other forms of power, we have a 12 volt DC input for powering from something like a V-mount battery or gold mount battery. Then we've also got the option of giving the power from that to the camera itself. So if you're using something like a Sony a7 III or Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, you can get the dummy batteries, you can power those via 8.4 volts directly out of the monitor, which is using the battery like an NPF battery. That will come out of there, go into the camera, and you can power both off of one battery, which is super handy. I've not actually tested it because I didn't really want to use a dummy battery when I've already got, you know, like an NPF plate converter thing. So I haven't used that yet, but I might look into it in the future just for the sake of having something small and light. There are obviously quite a few options of monitors. If you've looked around, you've probably seen quite a few. However, there's a few things that influenced my decision here, one of them being the price point. Now, when I bought this was 120 quid, so it was down from 150 because it was around about Christmas time, so they're obviously doing deals and sales. So just after Christmas was when I got this monitor. Your mileage may vary, but that was how much I paid for this. There are a bunch of other monitors that fluctuate around about the same price. So when it comes to purchasing, I then went on reviews, and the A6 Lite actually had much better reviews in terms of like the build quality and all of that. So a couple of the drawbacks that I feel could have been added to this monitor, one of them was touchscreen. Now, it doesn't take a lot to make something touchscreen nowadays, and also like the UI of this monitor is not that great. Like, I'm a Samsung LG kind of guy, so I like flashy kind of menus on things rather than, you know, you buy like a cheap Alba TV, you get a really crap UI. The Samsung LG style of things is like much better, much nicer. So if you had those two things, like maybe an extra like 20 to 50 quid on top of this monitor, maybe it's like even a premium version, that would be great. Obviously, if you added touchscreen, you probably have to change the UI a whole bunch because it's gonna completely change the way that you use the monitor. But as it stands, using the menu UI for this monitor to change anything is actually a bit of a pain in the ass. So all of the buttons are on the top of the monitor. So if you're sitting in front of the monitor, you can't see them. There's no marking on the front of the monitor to be able to say, oh, that's the menu button, that's the up button, that's the down button. There's none of that. So you're kind of like, you're either guessing or you're remembering, or you've got to look above the monitor down to be able to actually see the buttons that are around. So that was one of like the things that I thought was a bit of an oversight on the design part of this monitor. However, I've got to say, everything else with this monitor I'm really impressed with. Like, it's relatively power efficient, which is great. So it doesn't absolutely chew through batteries. The addition of 2 function buttons, so having the ability to set my focus peaking and false color, which is what I've got it set to, on 2 buttons. So I can, like I say, just reach over, press a button, I get false color, turn it off again. Really simple. Let's quickly talk about what comes in the box. So you get the travel case, which is quite nice. You have storage for the monitor, you have storage for the sun hood, you have a little zip pouch on the other side of a protective panel for storing things like your cables. If you want to like store any batteries in there, you can do all of that in there. Handy to have that protective case to travel with, because last thing you want to do is spend £150 on something and then crack a screen. Because if anyone knows how easy it is to drop a phone, it's just as easy to drop one of these if you're trying to screw it onto a Magic Arm, because I've done that. Luckily, I dropped it onto carpet and it didn't break, so we're all good. So this monitor has actually become quite a key part of my camera kit going forward. So I take this thing most places with me. If I'm taking the Blackmagic, I will take just the Magic Arm of the Blackmagic. Like I said earlier, all stripped down, so I'm not taking the cage because I don't actually have a bag big enough yet. I'll be looking for one at the photography show in the middle of March because I'm well excited for that, and this time I'm actually gonna, get some gear whilst I'm there rather than just crying and wishing I could buy gear, because who doesn't just like buying gear for the sake of buying gear? Like, I love it. Like, I would quite happily have all of this stuff and not really use it that much. But anyway, I would recommend this monitor for anyone who is looking for a cheap alternative to something like an Atomos or a small HD monitor, obviously without the recording bits. I know some of them have recording stuff, and one of them now has a Terra deck built in. So yeah, we're gonna recommend this. I say we, I mean me. I'm gonna recommend this monitor for you people at home watching this video, or you might be at work, who knows? I don't really know where you'll be if you're watching this video. You might be on the bus with headphones in, and then somebody is watching you watch someone on a video talking about this thing and having no idea what they're saying because you can't actually see it. Anyway, I recommend this. Go pick one up, or don't, it's up to you. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but what I will tell you to do is, if you like this video, don't forget to like, get subscribed, light the bell to stay up to date for whenever I release a new video, and I will see you in the next one.